All right. Good morning, everybody. So today's class is going to be working with the buyer in the purchase process. So at some point, you're going to have a buyer, whether it's someone you know or someone, a lead that calls in from your marketing that's going to ask you to help them find a property. They want to buy a property, they're interested in buying, or they're moving from out of the county or out of the state, whatever the case may be. It might be a first-time buyer. It might be a buyer that's experienced. And we're going to cover all that here. And hold on a second here. There we go. So in this class, we're going to cover intel. So what information you're going to need to get started from the buyer. Your value, you're going to tell them what your value is, why they want to pick you to represent them. We're going to talk about the search. So using the intel that you gather from what they're looking for to do a property search and find them the right home. We're going to talk about the offer, what documents you're going to need to submit your offer. And we're going to talk about the acceptance and what happens after they accept your offer. So first thing is gathering intel. So what you want to do is after you get that phone call, get their email address. You want to send them an email with a few questions here. So that way, when you're setting the appointment, you have something to start with, right? Something to go off of. And so you want their complete name, contact information, their mailing address. Do you want to ask them, do you have a property to sell now? Are you renting? Do you need to sell to buy? Because all this is important, right? You might have to tell them, we'll go into it. This is just a summary of what we're going to go over. Let's see. What has you thinking about buying right now? Right? Have you purchased a home before? How familiar are you with the buying and selling process? Right? These are all questions that you need to know. Have you been pre-approved with the lender, or are you going to buy with cash? And what are you looking for in a real estate agent? And then we're going to talk about these down the line here. So are you going to schedule your buyer's consultation? And if you're going to be meeting in the office, you can make sure that you let Kay know you want to reserve the conference room for an hour or half an hour, whatever it is, or the smaller one if you need it. Offer them a drink, water, coffee, whatever it is. Remember during the presentation to actively take notes. Take notes. You want to make sure that they see that you're paying attention, that you're not just like, yeah, sure, I got it. I hear you. I know what you're talking. No, you want to take notes. You don't want to forget this stuff. It's important. This is the biggest purchase of people's lives, right? Buying a home. So you want to make sure you get every single detail right. During the presentation, review the answers to the following questions associated with the questionnaire sent. And I think we're going to go over them here. How do you prefer to be contacted? Right? There's different generations, different types of people that want to be contacted in different ways. Someone like me, call me or email me. That's the best way to contact me. Or text, I guess, if it's like something that you really want to know right away. But with younger people, don't call me. They're like, don't call me, just text me. If you have something that, you think I'm an old person? Don't call me. Like, this is my kids. Like, Dad, just text me. Oh, dude, I'm your dad, come on. But the younger people, that's what they do. They just text. Right? So make sure that you're on board with the communication, right? Because you don't want to text someone that wants you to call them. You don't want to call someone that only wants you to text them. So whatever they prefer to do. Let's see. And this sets the expectations, right? To make sure that you guys are on the same page. Have you purchased a home before? This is going to help you understand their experience level. Do they know what the process is? Do you have to hold their hand a little bit more through the process? If they're experienced, they know what to expect. If they purchased that home 10 years ago, things have changed, so you might have to update them on some of the things. Are you working with a lender? So this question helps you understand if they're going to get a loan or if they're buying cash. If you ask them, are you working with a lender? And they say, no, I'm going to buy cash. Then you know, okay, how much do you want to purchase? Like up to how much? What's your limit? If they're working with a lender, have you been pre-approved? If so, for how much? You need to know what the purchase power is. And if they don't have one, they want to get a loan, but they haven't talked to a lender, you can recommend a couple of lenders to them. Try not to send them just one. because if it doesn't work out, they're gonna blame you. Send them a couple options, say, look, call these 2 or 3, and then whichever one you're comfortable with, you decide who you wanna work with. Because then they're gonna say, well, you only referred me this person because they're probably gonna kick you back some money and, you weren't looking out for my best interest. Here's 3 or 4, call, I trust all of them, I've worked with them before, right? And then if they're pre-approved, make sure you get a copy of the pre-approval letter, because you're gonna need this at some point to submit the offer. And then whatever the proof of funds is, bank statement, it could be their investment statement, whatever it is. If they have money that's out of the country, you wanna make sure that they have the money in the country, because sometimes there's money in China or money in another country, and it's hard to get the money in on time to close. So make sure that you relay that to them. Do you currently have a home to sell? This is gonna help you understand how you're gonna, I guess, present the whole scenario to them. That, yeah, you wanna purchase a property, but we need to get your home on the market first, because no one's gonna accept your offer if they know that it's contingent upon you selling your house, but you haven't even put it on the market yet. So now they have to wait, they're gonna accept your offer, but they have to wait for you to put it on the market, and then go through offers, accept an offer, go through the escrow process, and hope that your home's gonna close before, so that the other one can close. So this is important, because you need to discuss this with them. Hey, let's put your property on the market, and then maybe once we get into escrow, then we start submitting offers. And then now my offer is contingent upon the closing of my sale, not upon me putting it on the market, finding a buyer, going to escrow, and then closing. See how that makes more sense? Just looks better. I mean, it'd be better if they didn't have a contingent offer, right? That the offer is just, I don't have to sell my house, I'm just gonna submit my offer. Good morning. And if you guys have any questions along the way, you guys are free to ask, feel free to ask. But you guys understand this, right? So why buy and why buy now? This helps you understand what their motivation is. So it could be, my kids, going to high school, and we want to move into whatever the boundary is of that high school. Or my husband or my wife, they got a new job, and we want to be closer to that job. Or we're moving up because we just had another kid. Or we're moving down, downsizing, because all our kids are out of the house now. So you want to understand what their motivation is. And then how soon they want to buy. Do you need to be in by a certain time, right? It helps you understand how fast you should be moving. What is your timeline for purchasing a home? Again, we just talked about this. Do they need to buy now? Or do they need to buy in 6 months? Are they just preparing themselves for the end of the year? Just to get an understanding of what the process is, right? Are there any worries or concerns in the back of your mind when you think of buying? Especially for first-time buyers, this could be overwhelming. They don't know what to expect. There's a lot of documents they need to sign. There's inspections. There's a lot of personal information the lender's going to need, escrow's going to need. So for them, that might be, I don't know, stressful, right? Or maybe they don't have the time to look at homes. There's a lot of things that could happen, right? So try to put their mind at ease. How familiar are you with the buying or selling process? Again, we talked about this. If they're brand new, you're gonna need a lot of hand holding. You're gonna have to walk them through everything, every single step. If they're experienced, they buy and sell every couple of years, or maybe they own income properties, they know what the process is. You probably don't have to go over it with them. If the last time they bought was 10 years ago, you're experienced, you know the process, but things have changed. This is what's changed, right? How has your search been going so far? So they reached out to you, they want to buy, you ask them, so have you already been looking? Because sometimes they've probably already stopped at open houses and looked at some properties. It might be in the neighborhood they want, it might be they're just driving around and they, anytime they see an open house, they stop by and take a look. Have you already looked at some homes? If so, how many have you seen? This is gonna help you understand, like, I guess, where they are in the process, like, do they really wanna buy? If they've seen 10 or 20 homes, they're hot. If they see one home, they're probably not as hot right now, into buying, but if they've seen 10 homes, they probably know what they like and what they don't like, right? So from those 10 homes, what did you like about them? What didn't you like about them? Right, so now they have a narrowed vision of what they wanna buy, or what they're looking for in a home. What if we found the perfect house today, or tomorrow, or by the end of the week? Are you ready to buy it? Would you consider buying it? They're gonna say, well, if it was tomorrow or the end of this week, probably not, because we still have to do this and we're gonna go on a trip or whatever it is. So it helps you gauge their readiness. But if they say, we're ready, we need to move right away. Yeah, we're ready to submit an offer. Okay, then that's good information, right? That's something you'd want to know. What are your 3 favorite neighborhoods and why? So sometimes buyers will say, oh, I'm looking for a house in Mission Viejo, in Huntington Beach, and in Anaheim. What? Those are completely different cities and neighborhoods. Like, come on, that doesn't make any sense. They're gonna narrow it down to a city for whatever reason. It could be 2 neighboring cities, right? Because maybe Lake Forest and Irvine, similar type homes, right? And then prices are gonna vary, whatever it is. But once you narrow it down to maybe a city or a couple of neighborhoods, that makes it easier for you to help them find a house. What's your favorite room in the house? This is gonna help you understand, what they're looking for. Do they want a big kitchen? Do they entertain people? They want an open kitchen that opens, like into a great room or something? Or do they want a big backyard because they host people, parties? Do they want a giant master bedroom because they spend a lot of time in the master bedroom? Maybe they're starting a family? I don't know. Do they want a big living room? Right? It's gonna help you understand what it is that they're looking for. How important is outdoor and garage space? Do they want a 2-car garage, 3-car garage? Do they want a big backyard, small backyard? Do they want a pool? Do they care if they have a yard? Do they want low maintenance, small patio? Right? Everyone's gonna want something different. When you think that someone wants a big backyard, you end up finding out that, no, we just want a small patio. We don't wanna mow the lawn. We don't wanna hire a gardener. We don't want any of that stuff. We don't spend time outside. So, next year. And you're also gonna ask about number of bedrooms. How many bedrooms would you like? Baths? Is there square footage you prefer? Do you want a bigger home, smaller home? Do you want a single level, 2-level home? There are 3 levels. Are you okay with that? The neighborhoods they like to live in, characteristics. Is there a neighborhood? Do they want to live in an HOA? Do they want an HOA that has many pools, spas, parks, things like that? Or do they not want an HOA? And if they do, if they're okay with an HOA, what's the most they'd like to pay for HOA fees? Because there's some that charge $500 a month. There's some that charge $300 a month. There's some that charge $75 quarterly. Good luck finding those, but they're out there somewhere.
They're going up.
Yeah. Let's see, how long do you think you're gonna live in the house that you're gonna buy? Is this a step-up home? Is this like the first time buying a home and they just wanna live here for a couple of years and they use the equity to move into a bigger home, right? That's usually people do that with their first homes. Or is it a home that you're just gonna live and raise your kids in as long as you can and maybe give it to them when they, when you pass? What are the 3 property characteristics that you must have and the 3 deal breakers? 3 must-haves could be, I need a downstairs bedroom, whether it's single or 2 stories. I want 2-car garage, have to have that. And I want a good sized yard. Those might be the 3 things I have to have. Bedrooms, I don't care, they could be small. I just sleep in there, doesn't matter. And then the 3 deal breakers could be no bedroom downstairs, That's a deal breaker. It could be, I don't want to be next to the freeway. That's a deal breaker. And the third one could be maybe HOA fees above $500, whatever it is, right? So it helps you eliminate certain properties, not even showing it to them. What are you looking for in a real estate agent? If they're a brand new buyer, they don't know. You're going to tell them this is what I'm going to do for you. If they worked with an agent before, then they know what to expect because that agent either helped them. Excuse me. They either, yeah, I heard my name. So they either helped them and did a good job or they didn't, right? And if they didn't do a good job, you want to ask them. So what didn't they do that didn't meet your expectations, right? So let the client know that the criteria is not set in stone. It can be moved because they might walk into a house that they didn't think they're going to like, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't think that this house, that I'd like a house like this, but now I like it. We can add this to the type of home that I want. And this is fluid, it keeps changing, right? Depending on the neighborhood, the price, just everything. You want to show your value. How are you going to show your value? Well, you're going to tell them that you're going to search for the right home, and you're going to listen to what they're asking you to do. So there's different types of searches. And one of the searches is you set them up on an automatic email. You set the criteria, you say save new auto email, you enter the client's contact information, it sends them an email with all of the results that came up. And then it sends them an email anytime a new listing with that criteria comes to the market. Or if there's a price change for any of those listings. Or if something goes back on the market that was in escrow that they didn't know about. And that's going to send them everything that's available within that criteria. But the problem with that is sometimes you're going to send them properties that they don't want to see. And now you just wasted their time looking to the property. Oh, that one has a pool. I told them I don't want a pool home. Right? And then the risk of doing that could be something like the client saying, my agent doesn't even listen to me. They're sending me properties I don't even want to look at. Like, what's up with that? You know, I don't want these properties. So with clients like that, that's why when you first talk to them and you tell them you're going to send them properties, these are the options, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Like I say, you open an auto email, which sends you everything that's on the market. And sometimes that's good because you might see some properties that you didn't think that you'd like, right? So they're open to it. But then there's the other search where I'm going to go on the MLS every day and look to see what's come on the market that day and email you what I think that you're looking for based on the criteria. And you're only sending them those results, but you're searching every single day. Which search would you like? They'll tell you, right? Only send me what I want. Don't send me everything. Or sure, send me everything. I want to see what's out there. Okay. And that's searching for the right home. So you're going to let them know I'm going to schedule and show all the homes that you want to see. I'm going to write up some negotiate offers. And I'm going to manage the transaction. All the forms, disclosures, inspections, etc. Where there's some agents that use the transaction coordinator. They're not doing that themselves, right? But you're going to say, I'm going to do everything myself. I want to make sure that everything, what's being sent, what's being signed, everything's on time. I want to manage all of that, right? I'm hands-on. I'm not delegating it to somebody else. But it's going to get to a point where you're going to have 10 buyers, 5 listings, whatever it is, where you're going to need a transaction coordinator. But for right now, you don't need one. So you're going to review the purchase agreement with the client. You want to show them the purchase contract. Say, you want to show your ability to navigate through the purchase contract. So when you're sitting down with the client during the consultation, you want to say, look, this is the purchase contract. I want to explain it to you now so that when we're ready to submit an offer, I don't have to explain it to you then, because we might not have time. There might be a lot of offers being submitted right away, and we'd have to submit it right away. So I want to go over this purchase contract with you and what everything means. So you can go through the contract with them and That's the first bullet point there. Discuss with the client how you suggest presenting the offer. So tell them the documentation you're gonna need. So as soon as you like a property, what I'm gonna do is, and I think it's on another slide, is when you're ready to submit an offer on a property that you like, you're probably not sure what you want to offer, right? If the property's 1.5, do I offer 1.5? Do I offer 1.6? Do I offer 1.4? What's the right price? Well, you don't have to think about it. I'm gonna do research. I'm gonna find out what the homes are selling for in that neighborhood. And then I'm gonna give you a suggested price about what they're selling for. And then you can decide what you want to offer. So they don't have to go into it blindly, right? Let's see, review the RP with the client, particularly section 3, describe the message. So you want to talk to them about the contingency periods as well. You want to talk to them about how they have 17 days for all the contingencies pretty much, and how you can move those numbers around to make the offer look more appealing. Let's see. You want to talk about, oh, and here it is. Let's see. This is the main section of the contract where you're going to submit the purchase price, the deposit, how many days the escrow is going to be on letter B. Duration is going to be usually 30 days. Expiration of offer, that's 3 days. Initial deposit, what your deposit is going to be, and that's usually got to be 3%. What your loan amount is going to be. So on a 1.5, 80% loan is what? Who's good at math?
800,000?
Huh?
800,000?
No, it's got to be.
300? 80%?
No, it's $1,050,000.
Did
Something
you
like
say
that.
80% of the
Yeah,
purchase
it's
price?
like, yeah.
3,500.
I don't know. I'm not gonna make you guys do math. This will figure it out for you. So if you put your loan amount here, it'll tell you what the percentage is. And then it'll tell you what the balance is, what the buyer's got to come in with on letter F here to close the transaction. So this is what that looks like. You want to explain it to them. Most of it is on this page anyway. So the rest of it is contingency periods, and then we'll go over the buyer representation agreement later on in this presentation. So here it is, buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. So you want to show them the BRBC and explain to them that you can't show them any properties until this is signed. Just like the seller has a listing contract with an agent, the buyer has a buyer's contract with an agent. And if you show them any properties without having the sign, you could potentially be fined $2,500, because it's also California state law that you can't show properties without having a BRBC sign. But you also want to let them know that you can negotiate that into the contract, that the seller paid for the commission. And that's newer. So a lot of the buyers or sellers that have bought something or sold something in the past, they probably don't know that. It was all over the news, but I don't think they explained it. And so this is a section of the BRBC that shows you cannot exceed 3 months on the representation. And if you go beyond 3 months, then it's not valid. At the end of the 3 months, you can either extend it or write up a new one. And you want to make sure to always check the box that says exclusive. That means that if they submit an offer through another agent, you're still going to get paid if they close, because they're working with you exclusively. But if you don't check that, if they submit with an offer through another agent and they have one of these signed with another agent, you don't get paid. So make sure that box is checked.
So should that date be March 30th or March 17th, 3 months after the beginning date? It said not exceed 3 months.
Yeah, this is, I should have put something up there.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it did not exceed 3 months.
Okay.
But thank you for catching that. Yeah, that's more than 3 months on there. I should change that. And then after they sign this, you want to give them a copy of it. You want to give them a copy of everything they sign. And again, in California, showing properties without signed buyer representation or broker compensation agreement, where its equivalent can lead to a $2,500 fine and potentially jeopardize an agent's MLS access. This requirement, effective January 1st, 2025, mandates a written agreement between a buyer's agent and their client before showing properties or at the latest before an offer is made. So make sure you let them know, there's no way I'm gonna show you a property without having it signed. And there's some buyers that don't know about this thing, like, I'm not gonna sign this with you. Okay, you're gonna have to sign it with somebody. At some point, why not me? So the documents you're gonna need right away are the BRBC, the Buyer Representation Broker Compensation Agreement, proof of funds, and a proof of their pre-approval letter. Or not proof, their pre-approval letter. And you're gonna need this before you start showing them any properties, right? Because I'm not gonna show properties without having the BRBC signed. I'm not gonna show properties without the pre-approval letter because I don't know what they qualify for. They could just say, I wanna buy a $10 million house. Can you even get a loan for that? Do you qualify, like? And then once you get the pre-approval, we want the proof of funds. Because we wanna make sure that they have the down payment in their account. Right? So now that you have all this, you're gonna do the search. Search the MLS, and again, you could set up an auto email, we talked about this, or send an email every day. Or do a search every day and send them any results that show up of new properties. Any questions on this? Make sure that you talk to your client and say, hey, there's these two options. I can say you open an auto email, or I can search every day and only send you the things that I think that you want based on your criteria. Okay?
In your experience, what have people often chosen? MLS or?
The auto email. Yeah, they want to know what's available. But there have been some clients that actually that tell our agents, the last agent I worked with, they didn't listen to my needs. That's why I'm looking for a new agent. So. All right, so after they've narrowed down the homes, you could start scheduling the showings. Or another approach is you could say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I found these 5 homes that meet your criteria. I want to schedule showings for Saturday. Are you available Saturday? Sure. So that's one route, or the other route is let them tell you which homes they want to see. And make sure that you adhere to the showing instructions on each property, because there's fines associated with that if you don't follow the showing instructions, and if you enter the property without permission. That's 2 separate fines. And every listing has showing instructions. And when you schedule the showings, give yourself about 30 to 45 minutes between each showing, because you're gonna get to a property, you're gonna open the lockbox, grab the key, open the door, walk through the property, go through each room, maybe upstairs, downstairs, look in the backyard, lock the door, put the key back in the lockbox, and then you still need time to drive to the next house. So 30, 45 minutes approximately, and then just make sure you understand yourself how much time you're gonna need. Sometimes it's not gonna matter if you show up a little bit late to the next house, unless there's someone scheduled to see it after you, right? Any questions here? Okay. You also wanna make sure that you have installed and subscribed the Super E Key on your phone to open the lockboxes. It's the Super E Key app that you download from the App Store. And then you have to call Orange County Realtors for them to activate it. This is how you're gonna open the lockboxes via Bluetooth on your phone. You're gonna show the selected properties, and what you wanna do is you wanna give the buyer a customer report. So it's a printout of the MLS listing, but it's a customer version where it doesn't have the listing agent's information. It doesn't have any of the private remarks or showing instructions. It's just like a flyer. And then give them a pen. Maybe get some pens made with your contact information that you could just say, here, you can take this. They can write notes on each listing you show them, each property you show them. Or maybe they can just write a big X on it, saying, nope, I don't like that one, right? Because what's gonna happen is you're gonna show them 5, 6, 7 properties. And when they get home, they're gonna be like, oh, I really like the one that had the blue kitchen, blah, blah, and which one was that? Damn, I forgot. We saw so many of them. But if you give them a printout, they can write notes on it, like, I like this one, whatever, and this is my first choice, second choice, third choice. And then exercise safety when showing properties. Don't show vacant homes at night. Now that we're getting closer to like dark, 5 PM. Some people want to see the property after 5 PM. Be very careful. Especially the women. There's a lot of bad people out there. Carry some pepper spray with you. Take someone with you. Let your spouse or let the broker know you're gonna be at that property. And then something I haven't brought up in a while is Orange County's good at giving CCWs to realtors. That means concealed carry weapon. That you can take classes, carry a weapon concealed, and then you'll feel a little bit safer. And they basically give them out to realtors if you apply for one. But that's if you don't have a criminal background or anything like that, right? So that's another suggestion or. All right, let's move on. So now the next is the offer. You show properties, you were safe.
Carlos, I have a question.
Yes,
Hey, in previous slide, you said they provide a customer report. What kind of report does it mean?
so when you pull up the listings on the MLS, there's like the agent full report.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
There's one that's the customer full report.
Uh-huh.
You can print that one, or you can do the customer flyer, whichever you want. I like the customer report. And I think that one might even have some lines for them to write notes, I'm not sure.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep. So next, after you show them properties, you're safe, you made it through, didn't have to pepper spray anybody. And now they say, I like this one, I want to submit an offer. So now what you're gonna do is, like I said before, you're gonna search for comps in the MLS. So you're gonna look for other recent sales in the neighborhood that match it, find out what they sold for. And then you want to inform the client, say, hey, look, present your findings. This is what the average sold price was, maybe the average price per square foot, because there might be homes that are 2,000 square feet, another one's 2,200 square feet, another one's 2,300 square feet, but they're all pretty similar. They're all, 4 bedrooms, whatever it is. And then because they're different square footage, you can't really price them the same. So what you can do is you can do an average price per square foot and say, look, we're gonna take this average price per square foot. We're gonna multiply it times the square footage of this home. And that'll give you an idea of what you can submit, what offer you can submit, or go based on the last sale. The last one sold for this much, that's a good price. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, depending on the market. If it's a buyer's market, you're gonna offer below asking. If it's a seller's market, you always have to offer above asking. Unless it's been on the market for a while. And make your informed recommendation. Any questions on this?
How long would you say is a while for something to be on the market? Right now?
30 days.
30 days.
Yeah, because usually homes go right away, like within the first week or two. And if they're sitting after a month, that means something's wrong, it's overpriced. Maybe you went into escrow and then someone backed out. Why did they back out? Was there something wrong with the house? And that's what people wonder.
Yeah.
When you're in the MLS, and that's something we talked about, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, they have days on market and they have cumulative days on market. And days on market is how many days it's been on the market under this contract. Cumulative days on market means how many days they've been on the market with this contract and the previous contract. So maybe it was on the market twice. So that number might be bigger because it was on the market for a month, for 3 months, and then it expired, and then it came back on the market again. So now it's 3 months in a day, right? And when you click on those numbers, it tells you a story as to price changes, when they did a price change, status change, if they went into escrow, accepted an offer, and then it came back to active. So it shows you all these things. So you can stop and look and say, okay, it went into escrow 3 times within the last 2 months. Why did they cancel every time? What's wrong with the house? So sometimes buyers are weird. They're like, you know what? There's probably something wrong. I don't even want to go through that. So now you're gonna write up and submit the offer. Now that you have an idea, you gave the buyer an idea of what to submit or what offer to submit. You're gonna obtain a property profile from the title company. It's gonna have the seller's name because you're gonna submit the offer to the seller. And if it's still not clear, you can call the listing agent, ask them what the seller's name is, because it's contract that the buyer's offering to the seller with their names on it. So you're gonna write up the offer. You're gonna have the buyer sign the offer. You're either gonna send it to them digitally to sign, or you're gonna sit down with them and then review it, see if they have any questions, and then have them sign it in person. But you already reviewed the contract with them, right? When you first talked to them. So now that they have a good understanding, they might have a question or two about it. And once you have the offer signed, you want to send it over via email to the listing agent. And on the subject line, you're gonna say, offer for 123 Main Street, whatever the address is. And you're gonna attach the purchase agreement, the pre-approval letter, and the proof of funds. You don't have to send them your buyer representation agreement, because that's between you and your buyer. And let your buyer know there might be some counter offers, so that the seller might counter you and you can counter back and so forth. So just to be expecting that. Any questions? Yes,
So proof of funds, will that always be like a copy of their bank statement?
it could be one bank statement, it could be multiple bank statements, because maybe they have money in different accounts. It could be their retirement account that they're gonna be drawing money out of.
So this shows how much money they have.
Now that you submitted your offer, you guys went back and forth with counters, they accept your offer. What happens next? So what happens, you're gonna congratulate your buyer, you're gonna call and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, congratulations, they accepted your offer. That's cool, right? So then you wanna notify the loan officer to let them know that the offer's been accepted, and then they're gonna ask you to send them a copy of the purchase contract, so then you're gonna, or whatever they need, you're gonna send it to them. And then at some point, escrow is gonna reach out to you and ask you for your client's contact information, because they need to send out escrow instructions to them. They need to send out wire instructions for the deposit. And then you want to make sure to let your client know that escrow is going to reach out to them with wire instructions via email. And you want to make sure that they contact escrow when they receive that email to confirm that account. Because this is where a lot of wire fraud occurs. There's these hackers that insert themselves into an email exchange between escrow and the buyer. And they pretend that they're the escrow company. They make their email look like they're the escrow company, and they send wire instructions with their account number. So once the buyer wires the money, it's gone. You're not gonna get it back. So make sure that they contact escrow when they receive the wire instructions. Say, hey, escrow, I received your wire instructions. Can you confirm the account that it's going to? And then make them confirm. You also want to email this in writing, so they can never say, well, you never told me. Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, just to confirm, reach out to escrow to confirm the wiring account. Let's see. And make sure that they that you use your buyer's full names, not just their first and last name. Escrow's gonna ask them for their contact information, marital status, how they want to hold title, who the lender is. And then escrow continue. Let's see. So this is a lot. I'll just go through some of these things here. The escrow holder with escrow company serves as a neutral stakeholder, neutral third party, and the communication is linked to all parties in the transactions. So they don't make decisions. They just communicate, make sure that everybody's on the same page. They put it in writing and make sure everybody signs it and agrees to it, right? And they hold the money. And escrow prepares escrow instructions. They request a preliminary title search from the title company. They request a beneficiary statement if the obligation is being taken over by the buyer, complies with lender's requirements, receives purchase funds from the buyer, prepares security deeds and documents related to escrow, probate, taxes, secures release. Let me see what. Records deeds, requests issuance of title insurance policy, close escrow, prepares final statements. Escrow is going to give you a estimated closing statement that's going to show the buyer where all the money's going. They're going to give one to the seller too. And then that might change depending on maybe if they got a different loan rate, or if they're getting a credit from the seller, or whatever it may be. And then at the end of escrow, they're gonna get a final settlement statement. It's gonna show them everywhere the money went. was dispersed to. Make sure that your buyer wires their money within the 3 business days. Business days means if the offer is delivered, accepted and delivered today, 3 business days would be Fridays, day 1, Mondays, day 2, Tuesdays, day 3. That's one of the only times they're gonna refer to business days in the contract. Everything else is just calendar days. But this is one of the only times they're gonna refer to business days. And if Monday's a holiday, then it's gonna go to Wednesday. So holidays don't count as business days. So wanted to talk about this. Morning. So the escrow holder does not, this is what they don't do, is they don't offer legal advice. So your buyer should not ask them for legal advice. They don't negotiate the transaction, so make sure that they don't try to negotiate with escrow. They don't offer investment advice, so make sure that they don't ask them for that. And they don't notify the loan officer that the buyer's in escrow. That's something that you guys have to do. So make sure that I hear this from escrow all the time. Buyers call and say, well, can you tell the seller to pay for this because I don't want to. No, that's not their job. They call you as the agent to negotiate that. They're not supposed to call escrow to do that. So, yeah. All right, let's move on here. So during the contingency period, remember 17 days contingency period. And then I'll show you guys on the chart. I love that chart. You guys know I love that chart. So during that period, you're gonna order a physical inspection of the property, and then maybe the seller's gonna order termite, but that's all gonna happen within the 17 days. You're gonna order a home warranty, or maybe escrow can order the home warranty. But it'd be good if you ordered it. And typically you're gonna ask the seller to pay for the home warranty. But again, you're gonna order it, not the seller. Order NHD report. This is usually done by escrow. I know our escrow company does it. You're going to negotiate a repair for request or credit towards repairs. So after you get your inspection, physical inspection, you're gonna sit down with the buyer and say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, these are all the things that the inspector found that's wrong with the house. Are there any things that you want to negotiate the seller to repair or give you credit for? And again, it's negotiations. The seller doesn't have to say yes. So you could say, yeah, we want them to fix, we want a new water heater. We want them to fix the broken windows, whatever it is. Mostly safety issues is what you want to ask for. But sometimes it's better just to ask for credit. So then you're going to send over your request for repairs. And then the seller's gonna either accept it or deny it, or maybe give you a portion of it, or maybe say, we're gonna give you credit instead of fixing this. And then you guys agree to it, okay, everything's great. And then you confirm agreed upon repairs are complete 5 days prior to closing. Any questions here? All right. And this is the transaction timeline. All right, here we go. So day 0 is acceptance. And day acceptance is delivery of the accepted offer. It could be accepted today, but not delivered until tomorrow. So tomorrow would be acceptance day, right? Once it's delivered to the final party. That's acceptance is day 0. So then the next day is day 1. So if you're talking about 17-day contingency period, tomorrow would be day 1, all the way through 17 days. So first thing that needs to happen is within 3 days of after acceptance, the buyer proof of pre-qualification letter, but you've already sent that, your pre-approval letter. Proof of down payment, you've already sent proof of funds, so you don't have to do that. Buyer to deposit to escrow, they have 3 business days to do that. Buyer or seller evidence to act in so if you're buying in a trust or from an LLC or something like that, then you're gonna have to show evidence. The buyer's gonna have to show evidence that they can act in the representative capacity. And then the seller is gonna pay for HOA docs at that point, which escrow is gonna order. And that all happens between the first 3 days. Now, within the first 5 days, the buyer should immediately begin shopping for homeowners insurance. You want to make sure that they can find homeowners insurance, because that's one of the contingencies. And is it affordable, right? You should already order the physical inspection. I would do that on the first day, just to make sure we get it as soon as possible. And buyer or seller should order the termite inspection. So the listing agent is going to do that if you ask them to. and they agree to it. And the buyer should sign and return any escrow instructions back to escrow if they've already been sent out. Which sometimes they won't send it out till later, so it gives you have a few more days to do that. Now, by day 7, it's a lot of things going on at the beginning, right? By day 7, the seller should have already sent out the seller's disclosures. HOA information or HOA docs should have already gone out. Delivery preliminary title report, that's gonna be ordered from escrow. Any disclosure of the transfer lease, so any disclosure of any leased items such as, or liened items such as like solar panels, or I think they said, what was the other one? Is it a water softeners? Some of them have that, or I'm not sure. But definitely the solar panels. Some delivery of affidavit not for status, that usually goes out with the seller's disclosures. The seller has to make sure that all the smoke alarms and water heaters are installed and working, and that the water heater is braced before the appraiser comes out. Because if this isn't done by the time the appraiser comes out, then the seller has to pay for them to come out again. Because that must be ready for them to inspect. And so hopefully you've already gotten the seller's disclosures and you've had the buyer sign everything and you've emailed them back. And then you got your physical inspection within the same time frame between day 3 and day 10, whatever it is. And now you can send out your request for repairs. You sat down with your buyer said, this is what I want fixed. Now you're gonna send in your request for repairs. And the sooner you send it, sometimes they say that it's good to send it at the end, close to the contingency period. Sometimes they say it just depends. I don't know if there's a right way of doing it. But you can send it as soon as you're ready, or you can send it closer to day 17, because the seller's gonna send you notice to perform. Hey, you're gonna remove contingencies? Well, before we remove them, here's a request for repairs. Agree to it, and then we'll remove them. That could be a strategy. But if not, you're wasting serious time, right? If there's a lot of things that need to be repaired, and you're waiting till day 16 to send over the request for repairs, you could be submitting an offer somewhere else, right? If they're gonna say no. So sometimes you wanna know as soon as possible, are they gonna fix this? So maybe day 8, 9, 10. If not, we're out. It's too many things that need to be fixed, or if we're not getting any credit for it. And now you're wasting valuable time, right? So there's something to be said for each way of doing it. But nevertheless, you could send over your request for repairs around that time frame. And then by day 17 is when you should remove your contingencies as a buyer or the buyer's agent. And if you don't remove them, what happens? No? You can still close. Huh? No?
You could get a notice to perform.
You could, but like if you don't remove contingencies, what happens? The transaction keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could that be a strategy? Like just wait until day 17 and then send in your repairs?
you can, but what the seller could do is they can send you a notice to perform. And if you don't remove contingencies within 2 days, they can
Oh.
cancel unilaterally on the 3rd day. So the buyer can cancel for any reason during the transaction until they remove their contingencies. If they don't remove contingencies, they can cancel at any time.
So if they
But-
wait,
But the seller can't cancel at any time. They can cancel only when they send the buyer notice to perform, and the buyer doesn't perform. Then on the 3rd day, the seller can cancel. So that's one of their only ways out. And the other way out is if they give you a demand to close escrow 3 days prior to closing, and they don't close on that day, then the seller can cancel. That's their other way out. So the seller, I mean, that's the only 2 ways that they can get out, right? So
what if they send them the repairs and the seller says, we'll repair this, but not that.
it's negotiable. So if
Within
the
the 3
buyer,
days, within the 3 days, it's, keeps going, right?
You still have to, okay, let's say you sent in your request for repairs. But then the seller the same day sends you a notice to perform to remove contingencies because it's day 17. And they're like, okay, we're giving you 2 days. They don't have to answer you,
Oh,
right? They don't have to answer the request for repairs. They can just wait for the 3rd day and cancel.
okay,
So now you're kind of left
wasted time.
just like on the hook, like, okay, so they're not gonna respond, but we still have to remove contingencies, or they're gonna cancel. Do we want this house or do we not want this house?
Right,
So that's another reason that I recommend doing it earlier, the request for repairs. But again, the buyer can cancel for any reason. So let's say day 17 arrives and everything's good. You sent in your request for repairs, you guys negotiated, they're gonna give you some kind of credit. Okay, everybody's happy. Then you send in your contingency removal, removing all contingencies. So now that means the buyer cannot cancel. And if they do, the seller is entitled to their deposit, not to exceed 3%. Right? But for this example, everything's great. They agreed to a credit instead of repairs. We give them the removal of all contingencies, and now we're just moving on. So there's no repairs to be made at this point because they're just giving us credit. So then we move on to day 18, 19, 20, all this. And then 5 days before closing is when you're gonna do your final walkthrough. And the final walkthrough is just verifying that the property's in the condition it was agreed upon when you purchased, when everybody agreed to the purchase, right? And to make sure any repairs are complete. In this case, there's no repairs. So we're just going in to make sure the property doesn't have a bunch of holes in the walls, because that's not what it looked like when I saw it first, right? So make sure that it's in the same condition or close to it, right? And let's see. And then we go to 3 days prior to closing. That's the earliest that the seller or the buyer can send over a demand to close escrow if you think that they might not close for some reason. But let's not even go there. We're having a good time. The transaction's going fine. And then we get to day 30 and then it closes. Are there any questions about this? Sure, I know you have a question.
Yeah, I have a question on escrow instructions.
Yes.
So like who drafts those up
Escrow.
for both buyer and seller?
Yeah.
So are they standard? Like what do they look like?
They're standard. It's just you could probably get an example from escrow.
Okay, like here?
Yeah, you can ask her to show you something.
Okay. So
Um,
that would tell you like what you need to do in what steps?
I think it pretty much, it states who the buyer and seller are, what the property is, what escrow's role, what they're gonna do, just the whole process for escrow.
Okay, so we as an agent don't have to worry about
No,
that. Okay.
and if there's any changes during escrow, they write up like addendums or amendments that both parties sign to make sure okay, you guys do want this change, okay, this is what's gonna change.
Okay.
But they're pretty much a neutral third party. They hold the money.
Mhm.
They make sure everybody's on the same page,
I see.
and they make sure it closes. They record.
Okay.
Okay, I had this. Okay, no, any more questions on this?
Who requests the appraiser?
The lender does.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is there a time limit on that?
Sometimes they come out after a few days. Sometimes, depending on how busy they are, it could be a couple weeks. So.
But it has to be before closing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you have to remove your appraisal contingency after this on day 17. So before the loan and appraisal, contingencies were 21 days. And everything else was 17 days, but now everything is 17 days. So. Okay, I wanted to show you guys a couple of things here. No, that's not it. It's this one. So this is pretty much the process. Oh, come on. So this is pretty much the process here. So what happens is the buyer interviews and selects an agent. The buyer and the agent evaluate the needs and wants of the buyer. They get pre-qualified or pre-approved for a home loan. They find the perfect home. They offer to purchase the home. Offer is negotiated and accepted. Let's see. Then you don't choose the escrow company after you choose it during the offer, because sometimes you're asking for it in the contract, or sometimes you say seller's choice. So someone already picks who it's gonna be. And then the buyer is going to deposit their earnest money deposit to escrow within 3 business days. And then the seller's gonna send out the disclosures, the preliminary title search, secure the lender, begin the loan process. Then you do the inspections within that time, the appraisal within that time, the homeowner's insurance within that time, and then the loan gets final approval. And you're gonna remove contingencies, deposit balance and down payment to escrow. This is at closing. And then sign closing and loan documents. And then the loan gets funded. And then the documents get recorded, and then escrow closes. Does that kind of paint a better picture? So that kind of goes hand in hand with that chart that I showed you guys.
Who pays for the appraisal?
Carlos,
Yes,
hi, can you show us how to find that process, the escrow? Yeah,
this. I can
where's
I can
that
email this to
located?
you. Yeah, I can email this to you guys.
Oh, okay, so is this in the co-op at my desk? Is this
No,
where
this
that
is
is located?
this is a lawyer's title document.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I can email it to you though.
thank you.
You're welcome. And let me see if there's any more here on this. No, that's it. You guys have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes,
Who pays for the appraiser?
the appraiser, the buyer pays for the appraiser. Yeah. There's gotta be more
On
questions.
that chart, they should be, like, when you're interviewing, they should be pre-approved, right?
Yeah,
You want them.
yeah, you want them to. That's just a flyer that kind of simplifies everything, but we know the real process, right? We want to make sure that they're pre-approved before you show them any properties. And that you have them sign the BRBC. Come on, this is a long process. You guys have to have questions, yes?
For the BRBC, is this only for the buyer?
Yes.
Or the somebody only for like a client, the client only for lease, we don't need to sign the BRBC? Oh,
There's a tenant representation agreement for lease.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for buyers.
and then for the choice, the escrow company, that's agent to do it, or?
Good question. So for the vendor services like escrow and title and home warranty and all that stuff, natural hazard, you can request a specific company, but that's all negotiable. So you could, in your offer, you could write in, we want to use Sterling Escrow 2, and then they could accept it or they can counter. They say, no, we want to use this escrow company, and then whatever you guys all agree to, that's what it's going to be.
So that's depend the seller.
Right, when it's a seller's market, the seller usually gets the pick, so you're gonna write in seller's choice. You wanna give them the least amount of things to counter you. Because if it's your offer against somebody else that's asking for all these things, they're probably gonna want your offer. Go with your offer, right? If it's a buyer's market, and then usually the buyer can write in whoever they want, and the seller's gonna be like, fine, just buy my house. Anybody at home? Okay, you guys are all experts now. So you guys can go out and buy a house. And I understand that taking the class, you're not gonna remember everything, right? This is just to get your mind going as to how the process works. So when you guys are working with a buyer, we're gonna have to hold your hands through the process too, because you're not gonna remember all this. We'll have the video up on YouTube, so you guys can watch it again, and we're gonna have this class again in like 3 months, so you guys can sit through the class again. The more you go through it, the more it's gonna process, but it's not gonna process fully until you go through it. So once you do it, once you go through it with the buyer, then it's gonna all kick in and say, oh, okay, that's what this meant, right?
When you gonna negotiate
if the seller agent, seller gonna pay the commission to the buyer.
With the purchase contract, that's included
In
in
the
the purchase.
offer?
In the offer.
In the offer?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the offer, there's a section that says that seller to pay for buyer's agent commission, no more than like 2% or 3%, whatever it is. But whatever your contract is with the buyer, let's say it's 2%. If you ask for 3%, that the seller pay 3% of the buyer's commission, they can't pay more than what they agreed to pay. So if you ask for 3 and your contract says 2, they'll only pay 2. Before they changed the language, if you ask for 3, but you had 2, then you're not entitled to a commission at all because you lied.
Oh, boy.
When they first changed it, but they changed it right away because like people were getting mad, so
Like,
now they're saying if you ask for 3, but you only agreed to 2, that they won't pay you more than 2%.
How about we do 3 here and then negotiate with the verbally with the person who wants to buy a house, and then if this is, 4, so we can pay it.
You can sign one for 4 and ask for 4, and then they negotiate down to 3. But then the buyer, they're gonna feel like, wait a minute, if they don't pay the whole thing, then I'm on the hook for the rest of it. So here's what we tell you guys to talk to your clients about. Ask for 3 on the agreement, on the BRBC. And then tell your buyer, hey, we're gonna try to get the seller to pay for the commission. And then if they say that they're only gonna pay for 2, then you're not gonna be responsible for the 1%. I'll just credit you that. You won't have to pay the extra 1%. We'll just take the 2% that they're offering.
does that have to be in writing though, or they have to take? your
I
word
think
for it?
escrow might ask for something in writing. But you can't, here's the thing, you can't write it in the contract because it makes it invalid.
Just a few words, really.
Yeah, if the contract becomes invalid if you write in, we're charging 3%, but if the seller only pays for 2, then we're only gonna say 2, then that makes the contract invalid, because it has to be just that percentage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So they have to take your word for it.
Because people are gonna write, yeah, I'm asking, it's gonna be 20%, but if the seller only agrees to 3%, then we'll do 3%. But what if the seller doesn't agree to it? Now the buyer owes me 20%. Right?
Yeah.
So, somebody watching the news? Let's see. Right there, it's Harriet. Found you, Harriet. Okay, if nobody has any more questions, then we'll see you guys next week. Next week, we're gonna do zip forms. So we're gonna show you how to access zip forms, how to create a transaction, add the forms that you need, and send them out for digital signatures. So,
Don't forget tomorrow.
yeah, don't forget tomorrow, the Halloween party.
Woo!
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.